Interesting stuff going on out there on the tours. We got a really neat topic to talk about in the grip versus distance. I've also got a repair that we need to talk about, all on What's in My Drawers Golf Talk. Next. Welcome back to the McGolf Shop. This is What's in Your Drawers Golf Talk. Why is it What's in My Drawers? Because old club makers and club fitters are tremendous pack rats, and this is no different. We started talking about what was in the drawers of my shop, and it's expanded to all these other talks we're talking about, where we talk about golf repairs, golf fittings, golf opinions, golf reviews, and whatever else might float across our screen right here. So let's get into it. Let's really get into it. So let's start with the PGA first this time. So I really didn't have a whole lot going on Sunday, which gave me some about 20 minutes to watch Tony Finau win by a huge margin at the PGA Tour. And it was really kind of neat in that idea of he hit a driver, and they said he was either the number one or number two in driving accuracy. He was about, I guess it's the old adage, would you rather be 10 yards into the trees or would you rather be in the middle of the fairway? When it was all said and done, the other two guys were trying to gain speed on him, and they threw out a couple of good ones, and they were in the it was like 288, 289 to his 280. So it was 8 yards, but they were on the right-hand side looking at it, and he was in the exact middle of it looking right at the green. So maybe that was a play, maybe it wasn't, but he was also very good on his putting. In the LPGA, Nelly Korda beat Lexi Thompson by 2 strokes. Or by a stroke by shooting 2 under, 2 more or less. Both into the 60s. It was pretty impressive. That was good. We saw Patrick Harrington win in the Schwab Cup. However, Steve Alkers still took the cup. Good for him. I mean, that was, he's had such a resurgence. It's not even funny. And then on the DP Tour, we see that Mr. Tommy Fleetwood took home a trophy. So that was also good. So some real good feel-good stories out there. It was really kind of cool. All righty. So in the shop, based on all the traveling that we had done and everything, we really didn't get a whole lot accomplished. We did do some stuff, but nothing that was, we're still coming back from a lot of things. So the first thing we did was the thing that was worthwhile showing you is a Ping Hybrid, 425, a 2, and we put an Atmos Blue in it. And it was a stiff, and you can see with the CP2 wrap, and it came out. We cleaned it up really, really good, and it was just a normal shaft change. The cool part about it is that I was able to save the ferrule, and normally I don't care about that, but in this particular instance, it came off with it. So I was like, well, okay, we're going to keep using it. And that worked out pretty good. Now, as you guys know, we lost our dog last time, or when we left off. But I am not associated with him in any way or shape or form. But Mrs. McGolf called up a company called Chewy, who we buy the dog food from and other stuff, the treats and whatnot. And we told them that we had to cancel. It was kind of just not to send us any more stuff because our dog had passed. And it wasn't about a day or two later. Get this done. A day or two later, this shows up with a condolence card. I mean, that's, for a company to do that, just to send that because of your dog, I'd say that's pretty cool. To me, that speaks highly of them. So, thank you, Chewy. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Before we get into the topic, we're going to talk about a repair. Now, I'm doing a video on this one, so you guys get a preview instead of it's like a prequel. I am reshafting not only one of these, but 2 of these. All right, it's a Ping G2 and it's a 5-wood. Now, the first one I had to work on, the shaft was broken out of. That was pretty straightforward. Pull one of these guys out, put a new one in, it's all good. Now and I talk about the technique. I'm not going there on this one. However, on the other one, it had one of these in there. All right, now this is what really goes in there, is one of those. All right, and so when you put this in here, you get that. And it looks stupid as all get out. So what do? Well, you end up cutting a chunk of this off and sanding it all out, and you put it in there, and it's still wrong. All right, and that's what happened with this thing, is that I went to pull it out, and the whole thing came out, and there was only this much engagement in there. And it's not that, I don't think that if you had to use this, you would have to do some serious sanding to get it in there. But what really gets me is that, that's pretty deep, and it only engaged that far. So that all that was it was a setup for disaster, a head going flying off, that kind of thing. And that's the part I can't stand by. So we took it all apart, and I ordered a couple of extras of these. And what these do is these sit in here, and you put them in there, and then that's the way it's supposed to look. All right. That's the original look. That's the way it's supposed to be. In this particular model, it had a really tall ferrule in it versus this, which was for a much later model. And you can see how much shorter that is. So when we get done here, I'm going to have to start putting the rest of these things together in order to see that. Now, I don't necessarily mind. I really don't mind if what you got's what you got, but you got to make it right. And what I mean by that is, not the looks may look a little different, but if you have the right amount of insertion, so this club will last a long time, so that the epoxy has a good long place to take up and absorb the shock from it striking a golf ball, more power to you. But if you shortchange it like that, no, we can't have that. All right. So that was my repair part of it. Now, as we talked about grip, before we get on to that, like and subscribe, right? Hit that like button down there. Hit the subscribe, hit the icon so you get the notifications and all this takes off. If you're on Facebook, I believe there's something out there that will let Facebook know that you're watching us. Please, if you would, do that for us, and then that way more of this information gets out to everybody. All right. That's something in my teeth. All right, so grips versus distance. Okay. Now, you could do, let's start off, let me preface what I'm getting ready to say with, I could do all the studying on the planet and tell you that this is the way it works the best. And the very nanosecond later, there'll be somebody out there who says, well, I did that same testing and it didn't work that way for me. Hence the reason why you call it testing, and hence when we say the things I'm getting ready to say. I just want to preference that. All righty. So tomorrow, the full-on video of this is going to be coming out at 7 o'clock in the morning, my time. All right. And we're going to talk about this. However, I wanted to include, this is some stuff I didn't include in the video. And what we did was so since probably March, since I've been doing all these fittings, if we get into an iron fitting, what we've been doing is we get down to the end, we find their head, we know about the size of the grip, and Jumbo Max sent me 2 sets of grips, their tour model and their ultralight model, and in all the sizes. And Acra sent me a series of I-Series ICWT 95s. And we're going to talk about all those. And as we went through, do some of these fittings. I asked them if they cared to, do an experiment with me, and I got quite a few volunteers. There's some information there. There's some information there. There's some information here. Needless to say, there's a lot of information. Okay, that's the idea. Now, so what happened? Well, and they're right there. That's where they're all at. Okay. And overwhelmingly, when the golfers picked up the bigger grips, they gained distance. right? And they also gained a bit of accuracy, all right? Now, was that 100% in there? No, there was not. But the funny part was, on average, I'm going to say if I go through all this stuff again, and on average, what people were gaining, it was funny. On average, that was the exact same number that they lost. So the numbers were pretty steady. There, the lowest was like 6 yards, and the highest I had literally was 56 yards. Now, before anybody gets excited, that is an extreme outlier. Okay, that's an outlier. That's one that you shouldn't even consider, but it did happen. All right. Now, were they just having a bad time with the one club? Possibly, but there was a unique difference between the heavy club and the light club as well. So it's just one of those things. He just got that club and is like, oh, wow, this is really good. Yes. All right. However, I didn't count that one when we were talking about the numbers gained. Okay. And the numbers gained. On the average, the low end was about 6 yards. On the high end was 19. All right. So on average, around 8 to 9 yards when it's all said and done. So it does work. And I've hit these things at least 3 or 4 times throughout the year, and I came to the conclusion the first couple of times I was hitting the wrong head. I just picked one. I said today's the day, and I put a Mizuno 223 under it, and just started wailing on it. And I said, okay, it's testing time, and I did it, and I ended up with, personally, I ended up with I think it was an 11-yard gain with the ultralights, and actually quite a smaller package when it was landing. And before Matt asked me whether or not I'm going to use those, I am seriously considering them. Just the way you have to be accepting of change, and most golfers are not, and that's where this will falter. I can show you that, yes, you're going to do very, very well with it. However, it's going to feel very, very strange, and initially you won't like it because it's different. Now, after you hit 10 or 12 shots and all of a sudden things are coming around, maybe you might gain acceptance. But the data is there, but the acceptance isn't. And it's because golfers are a traditional set of folks. I mean, okay, it is what it is. But I'm here to tell you that it does work. Now, uh, is it going to work for everybody? No. Just as the testing showed, I had 2 out of the numbers that I had, and there was a small percentage um, that did not like that. It was either too freakishly big, or they didn't like the way it felt, or something along that lines, and they just didn't like it. And okay, that's just part and parcel. But that's the reason why you test these things. Now, I will say, as I said in the video, that Jumbo Max has like a money back guarantee. In order not to waste all your time and all of their time, I might consider, just if I was you guys and you had a curiosity, is order just one. All right, order one and go out and give it a real run and see what happens, and hit it more than a couple times, hit it a dozen times, hit it 20 times, and then see whether or not you want to take off all your other grips before you get started. Okay. And that's what I'd be talking about. All right. So there's that one. Now that I've said this, let's see what all the all the questions are going to be. All righty. Let's get to the top. It's moving mighty slow here. There we go. There's Matt. First one in. No rounds. Should have gotten out yesterday. Yeah, it's going to get pretty chilly around here. We're in Ohio, and it's now getting into the 20s and high of 40s. And by the end of the week, the high will be in the 30s, and the low might actually get into the teens. So yeah, we've seen it right here. He's played both. Yes, he has. Shots fly further with a jumbo. All right. When testing new clubs, should you recreate your specs before hitting a new product? Well, that's another good question. So you want to get as close as you possibly can. Or at least know that if you got a specification that's out of whack, what the expectation would be because it's out of whack. So, for instance, let's just say you hit a half of an inch shorter club in general, and they give you a standard club or a distance club that's a half of an inch over. If you know that going in, you can kind of choke down. Some people don't like choking down, but you can choke down and you can be really, really close in that perspective. Um, if you've been fitted and you know all this stuff, say you want you like a 60 gram iron shaft or a 90, let's say 90 gram iron shaft, but all they got is 70. Know that you might get a little loose for the first 5 or 6 times before you get kind of recalibrated to that. Or if you're used to something at 120, this might be just far too light. Then just know that going into it so that you're gonna twist and turn at the top. It's just what's going to happen. And vice versa. If you're used to something light, that if you get something heavy, that you could release early, hit behind the ball, those kinds of things. So give it a shot. Uh, and the rest of it with the offset and the lie angles, those can be tweaks. They're not game changers, but they're uh, certainly part of playing better golf. But yeah, you should want to get as close as that. Particularly if you've been fitted, you want to get as close as you can, and then just test it and see. And again, like I said, you knowing full well. Uh, well, being how I put them on for him, Kent. The grips that he had on were the Jumbo Max, and they were the Tour model, and they were pretty good size, and they were actually quite heavy. By putting on the jumbos, we actually probably went down in grip weight, making the swing weight go up. Oh yeah, yeah. Mr. McGough put them on the last time. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So, so it probably went up a little bit. I think maybe that it prefer, and there's also something to be said about texture as well. If you like the texture, then okay, let's do the texture. All right. Jack's in the house. How are you, sir? There we go. Look at that. That's what we were just talking about. All right. How do you size the length of a 3 metal? Do you use the driver length and subtract a certain amount? Uh, well, this one's kind of I call it artsy craftsy, but I start out with a standard length of 30 or 43 for a 3 wood. All right. That's been since the days of old. Even when there was a time where drivers were like 43 and the 3 wood was 42 and so on. That was ages and ages ago. But what you really had was drivers at 43 and a half, 44, and the fairway wood was at 43 and everything was an inch shorter. Okay. And then you remember that period of time where everybody could just absolutely just smoke their 3 wood, but are having trouble with their driver. And that's when everything went to 45 inches, but the 3 wood remained at 43. Then the fairway wood went at half an inch longer for the company saying, oh, you can hit it further, you can do all that. Well, not if you can't hit it. And then the driver went to 45 and a half. Well, all of a sudden, people got used to either the bigger head, the longer length, or something, start hitting the driver better, and couldn't hit the 3 wood. So I go back to the idea that the 3 wood at 43 inches is the starting place. And then if you, based on irons and the driver, if they're particularly using something shorter, then I would think about going shorter. If they're in that 44 and a half to 45 and a half, I just let it go. And then we go from there. There we go. Matt did it. And Matt's got game too. So, whatever he says, I'm there. Mr. Peter, how are you, sir? Hopefully, Myrtle Beach is treating you well. The storm didn't wreck it or anything? Almost wasn't gonna make it. Well, come on, dude. But lucky yes, here I am. Okay, dude. Hello, golf people. Did you know Golf Pride discontinued the micro suede tour wrap already? I had no idea. They also stopped making that crown grip, as I saw in my golf spy. Somebody was commenting on that one earlier about not having that particular shape. If you guys remember, the crown it was a jumbo putter grip, and it was very, very large at the butt end, and it tapered down. It was a pistol grip, and actually had a. Normally, when you get to jumbo, all the shaping goes away because it's just big. Well, this one actually had a pistol form in it, and they've since gotten rid of it. Well, I don't know if the micro suede was doing all that good for him anyway. Joe Dennis, good afternoon, sir. And there's Mrs. McGolf jumping in. It's because she put all those extra wraps underneath of them. And Matt, like a smart person, is not arguing. Mr. Charlie, how are you, sir? I don't think you're getting too many rounds in. I got way under 40 at least. Got a new one. Dalmore 12 in a sherry cask. Came in a purple box. I just couldn't resist. I picked it up actually in Texas. Salute. All right. Jason shot 42 in 42-degree weather. Not the best score, but it was great to get out. You look at you, man. So what happens when it gets to 36? That would be cool. Tony Sharps. Thanking Robin. No problem. No problem. Is that our Arizona guy? I think that it is. So one of the things we did a fitting, I wanted to show you this. I didn't put it in my pictures, but Robin just sent it to me, and there we go. That young man. I know it's not very good because of my thing's all wet.
Guy's name is Tim.
Tim. Okay, I was saying Tony then. But that young man right there, we can see he came all the way from Arizona. And it's not lying, but it's also not the truth. He was here to visit his college buddies from Arizona State or from Ohio State, and he was looking at Makefield putters and found out that we did fittings for them, and he came down for a fitting, so it was pretty good. So it wasn't Tony, it was Tim, but again, Tony, okay. Danny Johnson helped a playing partner look for a lost ball on the leaves and hit a rock with my new irons on the leading edge. Ooh, very small dent. Is there anything I can do to fix it? Well, yeah, there is. So one of the easiest, probably most gentle ways of doing that is with a file. All right. If you've got I wouldn't go with a file anymore. You know, they've got rat tail files, they got flat files. There's all kinds of files, but you don't want to get one that's, this wide. You want one that's about an inch wide max, maybe even less, or one of those triangular files, and clamp your club in there. And I'll show you, see if I can do it like this. All right, and you clamp your club upside down so it's being held like this. And then what you'll do is you take that file and you crisscross yourself, and you're probably not going to work the dent completely out, but you get those, like I call them mushroom edges, and where the metal's been displaced and it creates a sharp edge. And you're looking to take those things out. All right. You take those things out and you just gently file on the sole, gently file on the face, and there you go. Now, that depends on how big a dent that you have. I've done ones that are, we call them pebble size. They're not much bigger than that, and that's one of the better ways of doing it. Now, if it's a bigger one, I have a jet with that's got a 2-inch wide belt sander on it, and I just take it and I'll ease into it, and then I'll just turn it. I'll ease into it like this, and I'll just turn it until I get to the very bottom of it, and I'll wipe it out. Now, you're removing some stuff, but you're taking the dent out. So hopefully that helped, bud. All right, Robin. Mr. Hodges, how are you? Saturday afternoon, we're going to be talking with Jason again. David Hanner, what are you doing? Hi from the UK. Thank you for staying up this late. With all the new chef technologies, is true temper dynamic gold still relevant? From a technology point of view, probably not. However, it's one of those things, if you got a good thing, then you got a good thing. Like a classic car is always going to be a classic car. The same thing with a dynamic gold. Now, there's some really good stories about those, but they will always be a standard on the tour, because that's what the predecessors use. That's what they use. That's what they get used to, the whole 9 yards. And you will also find that there's the upstarts like the KBSs, like the Acras, like the Nippons, that, when they go through this fitting, that they will find that, oh yeah, maybe this works a little bit better. But by far and away, much like Pro Vs, I would imagine that the dynamic gold is far and away probably one of the favorites out there. But they're not as dominant as they once were. That I can say that. And but I mean, it's still a good shaft, and they keep borrowing the name because they got the DG 105s, which actually I think is a very good shaft. And then you'll see DG spinners, which you'll see in a lot of wedge shafts. And then there's another DG out there. I don't know if it's a 95 or not. Maybe a high launch even. And in the high launch, probably the lion's share of most golfers could probably use and use well. But yeah, they basically, they got struck by lightning that first time, and luckily enough, they haven't had to do anything else. Have you heard about all the changes to the rules of golf for 2023? Well, I was listening to SiriusXM, and they were talking about it, and they didn't seem to be too awful concerned. Yes, there's some changes, but they were changes that were, the way I was listening to it, it was very, very common sense like. It was, there were further explanations of some of the changes that they made. I don't see anybody getting too panicked over them just as of yet, but can I rattle them off? No. But do I know about them based on what I've heard so far? Look at that. Manuel, what's going on? Hello, Jim and Robin. Played a Ray round last week. Played like Ray Floyd on the front, shot a 35, and played like Ray Charles on the back with a 48. Well done, buddy. Well done. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. I don't know. Are you starting to see a slowdown? I've talked to some other guys that are doing this, and they've said that they on the East Coast, and they've said they've seen a remarkable slowdown. And it's temperature related to be sure, but uh, getting back to it, I guess. There's Steve. How are you, sir? Hope things are going well for you. I've seen you've been pretty active on that Facebook group. Good for you. Well done. If you got any questions, buddy, just let me know. There's Matt. Golfers, yes, Charles, golfers with disabilities are now given more access to tournaments without local rules being applied. Yes, that was one of the things, that you could do that. I don't know if it's a must or if it's a kind. So yeah, yeah, that's me too. I'm with it. And I'm going to steal that too. By the way, a Ray round. Very cool. Dave, what do you say? 35 degrees, dude. We're getting there. I wouldn't be so well. We were there today at 28 when I got into the truck, but it's going to get even more chilly, I think, when we see it's all done. PZ, what's a comparable shaft to the Max 85S? Mm, if you can get your hands on it, an XP line in true temper. Another one might be the Elevate 85 MPH. That would be one. Particularly if you're staying in steel. Uh, Nippon makes an 85 grammer that's probably played just like it. I would literally, I would probably go with the 950 GH though instead. Within the tolerance range because I think KBS uncut their shafts are heavier, and when you cut them down, you get to 85, and it's just kind of the opposite the other way around. So if you should be really close, but from a quality perspective, I would go with the Nippon, but profile, and it would be very, very close in the profile. But also give a consideration if you can find an XP in that particular realm, or even the Elevate. Darren Martell, what do you say? Hello there, sir. Drivers can go to 600 cc's. I didn't see that. And a 930 core. Oh, that's gross. 18 club rule and the changes made to OB. Now that I was not aware of. The 600 cc, I don't know, man. Are we sure? 600 cc? They've been adamant, absolutely adamant about staying in staying in that 460 range. And with the core going up from what was it, 835? Is it 835 or 865? It's a whole point. And when that first came out, there was a truckload of testing that was accomplished on those. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Sneeze. Uh, and that as the core went up, if the higher swing speed that you had, you didn't get hardly anything out of it. So that would be interesting because if the 600 cc thing really is a deal, you're going to see some explosions of club heads. They're just going to go crazy high. Line of flight rules change where you can drop. Oh, geez, man, I must admit, man, these guys didn't cover jack when I was listening to them. I'm gonna have to get back into that. We'll have to go over that and make that a whole episode. I'm gonna have to go get some new ones. Cool. Nick Brunyard, how are you, sir? And thank you from Germany. Woohoo! And thank you for staying up late. Wow, that's great. Michael Barber, I've been around a couple of weeks. Hey, we're glad to have you back, sir. Glad to have you back. So, what this is, I went and got the flu shot, and it's a 50-50 split for me on the flu shot of whether I think it's good or not. But I figure, well, if they guess right, I'm good. If they don't guess right, I still get sick. And this time I got it, and they say, oh, you're going to get sick afterwards. I've never had that happen, not ever. This time I did. I just got it was just nuisance stuff like this, like blowing your nose. Just every once in a while, you just have to. Are you all snotted up? No, you just have to. I'm like, good night. Are you guys pulling my leg? 50-inch drivers again? Oh my goodness gracious. Now I got to go dig them out. I actually had a 50-inch driver. I think that might be geared more towards the folks with disabilities, but we'll see. 50-inch driver. You want to talk about getting your swing jacked up after hitting one of those? Ooh-wee. Bill Blessing, how are you, sir? Glad to see you on here. Emmanuel, I imagine it is a riot being around you. That's pretty good. All righty. Oh, here we go. Somebody from CHS Baseball, the elbow cough. Yeah, that's the reason why I have a tissue. Can't imagine having 18 clubs in my bag. 14's heavy enough. Oh, me too, bud. Well, what's going to happen is with the irons getting so strong, you're going to have a 7 iron and about 7 wedges. Apparently, they're getting tired of these pros that are haphazardly putting 2 drivers in the bag and getting disqualified. Maybe that was what it's for. Steve Bird, I have arthritis in my hands. Would thicker grips help me? Most assuredly, sir. Most assuredly. So let me show you. I'm going to get it now. Man, shout out to Jumbo Max. We're going to, because they supplied these grips, but this is the ultralight, and this is the junior grip. All right. And this one is this is the small, and then this one must be a large. And you can see the differences in sizes. All right. They're pretty big. Now, when one has arthritis, a couple of things occur, and I'm starting to find it myself. That number one is that grip pressure, you can't squeeze to get that same grip pressure because of one of two things. You don't have the grip pressure, and two, you may not be able to feel it. All right. The second part is pain. When you have the regular grips on there and you get a stinger, it supposedly hurts more. Now that I haven't experienced just yet, but the rest of it I have. Now I went with when I did my testing, I went with a small, which is about 2 sizes bigger than a jumbo grip. Now, what I tend to do is I tend to like to see in normal grip fittings, this to this is a much smaller diameter, and this to this is pretty close. But when I put these together, when I put those together, and I went and I swung that thing, it was a different feel, much like Matt was talking about. The club head feel came into play. The Now I really did the tour wrap or the tour. I really did like the tour feel. I think I like the shape of it a little bit better than I like the ultralight, but it's hard to. The results were just too fantastically different for me. They were all. It was kind of cool that the uh, the the distribution of the shots were very similar, but the distance was just crazy different. And when you hit it, and everybody's when you get these big grips, the feeling's gonna be muted. Dude, I am here to tell you, when you're off center on one of these clubs, even using the Acra grip or the Acra shaft, even using the Acra shaft, and again, thanks to Acra, I have yet to talk about them yet. Uh, this mutes it, and you can play without getting stingers, and that makes it easy to swing. And when you go to do that, you can kind of relax, and then you can because the big thing here is that you're squeezing so hard, and that you can't squeeze hard enough to get the club turned over. And I think that's what happens when the people that don't like them, that's what happens. And the people that grab it and they go, "Wow, I don't have to grab this as hard." All of a sudden, it becomes the release is quicker actually, and they can get through it. Since I promised to talk about Acra, all right. So this is let's see if I can get it to focus. The ICWT 95. ICWT stands for constant weight. It's really hard to do that kind of stuff in graphite. And what I would mean by that, constant weight at discrete lengths. That's a pretty amazing thing. It also they're also made with this, what they call a uniform taper. And in golf design, tapers are releases of energy. That's the reason why step patterns change on steel shafts, is that each one of those is a different release of energy. So what they have is one big step, so it's a smoother transition. Other people have done it, and they've been extraordinarily successful. These guys are no different. All right. The last bit is that they have a carbon weave technology, and that's just fancy speak for they have multiple different ways of weaving the graphite in order, and the way that they place the pre-preg on there in order to get a certain flex profile that's on there. But certainly, and they start at 40 and they go all the way up to 110. There is something in there for everybody. All right. There's CHS talking, Charlie talking to Kent. Here we go. Steve B asked something. Oh, yeah. I apologize again. There you go. Look at Robin going, man. I'm going to get her qualified as a club maker eventually. Then I can retire. Darren Martell, how do you determine lie angle? Say if a 7-iron is 1.5 degrees down after a fitting, how do they change incrementally? Wow. From the top of the set to the bottom of the set, are they all the same? As a whole, in the set of irons, Darren, yes, they're all the same. From the top end of the iron to the bottom end, just say the pitch and wedge or the A wedge. When you get into the sand wedge and the lob wedge, because it's likely that they will not be full swing clubs, that can change. And what normally happens is traditionally you might see even a little bit flatter still. Not radically, but sort of. Now, again, like I just said in the beginning of the show, is that true all the time? No. Sometimes they can go upright because the club is shorter and they feel the golfer might feel that they have more control going vertical. So you might have to change that. But most of that's predicated on the fact that it is a partial swing, not a full swing, like you would most likely see in your pitching wedge and your gap wedge. Oh, look at here, Robin getting all over it. Nicely done. Got a player that has a set of Ping Eye 2 black dots, 3/4 inch over, standard. I put together an I-59 the KV7, and he loves them, but can't find the shaft to order. Okay, and he's 5.5. What? 5 degrees to flat? That seems, man. That's what you call 5 degrees. He is 5 degrees to flat. I wonder what that means. Well, good luck moving the pings, because that's if you got to move it around 5 degrees, unless it's that Anser club, that's probably not going to happen. But if you're close already, then okay. Here's one I got to get rid of. Hold on a minute. There we go. We'll get rid of that guy. All right. From the 80 to the 85 PZ, the difference is just in weight. Their launch characteristics are virtually identical. Josh Davis, what do you say? Oh, I'm digging on the logo thing you got going on there. That's cool. Titleist 955 irons. Just picked up an old set for $50. Any good for a mid handicapper? Well, 955s. Trying to think. Those are probably like a player's cavity, I'm going to say. Mid handicapper, I'm sure you could strike them around. In you'd be surprised. Mid handicap guys can hit a lot of different clubs. Okay. Whether they be, something like a player's cavity, like a Rogue Pro, or a Mizuno 225, or a ZX 5 or 7 in that matter, or even a CB in the Wilson line. We always think, oh, I'm not good enough to hit that. You would be surprised how easy those clubs are to hit for a guy that can find the middle of the face. So yeah, the biggest question is uh, length, lie, weight. All right, length, lie, weight. If you can get it close to that kinds of stuff, I'm sure it would be okay. Danny, do shafts come in far more weights than I see at Golf Works? I heard Ricky Fowler's playing an MMT 105 shaft, and I've never seen them before. Can an MMT, can you get 70 or 80 in regular flex? Well, so the answer to that is yes. They do come in more weight categories. Uh, Normally, what GolfWorks does, and they are very good at this, by the way, is that they will look at their typical clientele, which is massive, and they'll say, our clientele normally buys in these categories, and they will go out and get into those categories, unless there is some just commanding reason to have something else. However, we have also found that yes, because in Nippon, right, they don't have every Nippon shaft. We have a few more than they do now, but it's different because I'm fitting to them and not carrying too much stock, and that's all they're carrying is stock. So it's a different business uh, dichotomy going on. All right, so uh, that's just what's going on. And but yes, you can. I think if you go to MMT, you might be able to find them. I've heard of the 105s before. In fact, I think we had some in the shop. Okay. Now, as far as the 70s and 80s, that one I'd have to look into. But it's as I understand it, Mitsubishi. So we go to the website, we probably able to find it. Oh, Dalmore's good, buddy. James Hodge, if you grip an O-Works putter with a larger grip Superstroke 2.0 to a 3.0, would you have to adjust the counterbalance weight or would extra weight be enough? Or is it just a feeling thing? In reality, James, it's just a feeling thing. The difference between the 2.0 and the 3.0 is not that great, right?
The 70 gram comes in the R-Flux. That's what you've been doing for Jay from Maryland.
Well, there you go. So let's go back. Here we go. Danny, we can get a 70 in an R-Flex. We've been doing those for a guy in Maryland for the last 6 months. So yeah, that can happen. Okay. So we're going back to Mr. James here. I have to apologize, guys, but I just don't want to have it hanging out there. No, you don't need to worry about the counterbalance. As a matter of fact, you might like it just a hair heavier under the hands to begin with. All right. Peter tried a jumbo grip for his driver. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Hit a big slice, played it for 10 rounds, impact loss over 16 balls. Truly. Peter, what I'm finding out is in the idea of putting a jumbo in there, that would probably happen a lot. And it depends on how you come around to it. But what we're talking about in Jumbo Max is actually bigger, right? We're going past our norms. And when we get and it's a different hold on. It's really different. And that's what it is. It's just really different. And if you can get used to it, good. If you can't, well, then that's fine too. Paul's Box 67. Good evening, Jim. Since the weather's turning bad, have you ever thought about playing GS Pro in your fitting studio? No, I have not, Paul. I actually have a subscription to E6 that works well with the flight scope, and I have yet to use it. I know that's a bonehead move on my part. It's just a matter of getting all the pieces intertwined and making sure that that's working. But yeah, this winter might actually be that thing. Uh, but no, I have not tried the GS Pro yet. Phil K, there's these Austin, chilly and windy, but we can golf. Good for you, dude. Good for you. So I will say that we were down in the Austin area, not for good reason, that last weekend, and we were in the Cedar Park area. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's where we were at, and I kind of liked it. Was it Jack's Kitchen? Man, that place was awesome. All right, Sean Hardigan, how you doing, sir? Very well. Hopefully you are too. And there you go. Robin's already answering it. Look at that. Steve Tierney, you said about Jumbo Max, MCC4, and they are very nice grips. This isn't to say that in all of this, Steve, and all of these things, that's the reason why I wanted to preface the statements I was going to make with what I said, is that this isn't going to be for everybody. All right, but the data suggests that if you went to the right bigger grip, okay, as you can see, if I show you and this isn't even smallest to largest, but if you look at that and look at the difference there, that's pretty massive, okay, pretty massive. And the guys at Jumbo Max had the foresight to make much different ones. There's bigger ones than that, and there's one. I think that was the smallest. Yep, and some in between. And just like finding a regular grip for you, there is another one. That's what I did. I tested them, and I gave them a small one, and then I would give them the really big one to see if they thought they could use it. They're like, "Oh no, that's way too big." So I started handing them grips until they got comfortable to a size, and voila. It was funny that it was normally they were gravitating between mid and the small were the ones that were the most popular. But we go through a truckload of the MCC4s in jumbo and midsize and all that, and they are really nice grips. The wrap grip is probably our best seller, to be sure, and it's because of the texture. It's a softer grip, nice rubber. I mean, it's a really, really good grip. And yes, it could do that. Bill Blessing, are you familiar with the TFC 100 shafts? As a matter of fact, I pulled one from this club. I'm hitting the snot out of a G5 3 wood with the shaft in the R. Well, this one had an S in it, by the way. Would you recommend a shaft replacement to replicate the profile? Well, that is a proprietary shaft. We all know that because it's paying in a TFC in the 100. The 100 was a little bit more forgiving, right? We'll say forgiving. And so there's a few that I would recommend right off without even looking. But in the R Flex, there's a couple. Number one would be the I Series fairway wood shaft. They have fairway wood specific fairway wood shafts to deal with the weight and the size and the MOI of this head. It might actually turn out to be a little bit better. And you get in the right weight, and there's not a whole slew of them, but close to the right weight and the right flex. That's one. The other one is, and I'm looking over because I've got their drivers. The next series up is called FX, and they do also have fairway wood shafts, and they have blue for a slightly higher launch, green for a middle launch, and red for a lower launch. And it would be my opinion that the TFC was slightly higher, right? So I would get into the blue in the comparable weight, and it would actually probably be a little light. So somewhere between the blue and the green in that very same thing. I went from here's Jason. He went from a CP2 wrap with 4 wraps to a Jumbo Max straight 8. Extra small, which is just a little larger, and love them. Extra large is a little bit too big. Yes, they are. But the small and the straight 8, and that's a third model, and the straight 8 is a zero taper model, and it has a cavity on the back to hold those discs so that you can monitor your golf. Kind of a neat idea, and that you can get into there. All righty. Albert Sneed, how are you, sir? Do you really see a lot of difference between putter shafts? The answer to that is yes. Now, is it a massive change difference? We're talking about a putter. It's really about feel and where the weight is at. Uh, that's lead. If you're leading me into the BGT shafts versus a standard steel, there is something there. I've not tested them. I'm going off of the wedge shaft that I did, and it was markedly better. Okay, markedly better. It's got a different feel. It puts a lot of emphasis on putting head weight to it. And if the BGT putter shaft is very much in that same area where you can customize by shoving the shaft up in there and then letting the tines hold on to it, you can probably adjust your feel accordingly. But that said, I deal a lot with Callaway, and they have the Odyssey line, and they have the Stroke Lab, and they have the Steel Shaft line. There is a noticeable difference between the Stroke Lab and the Steel Shaft. Noticeable, right? When you pick it up, it's totally different feel. Now, does that mean that all that tech lined up is for you? Maybe, maybe not, right? And that's the beauty of being fit, is that you can find that particular part out. But the thing that is happening in a lot of these shafts is that weight is being placed behind the hands. And we've been doing that since the very late 90s. In putters, in putters, I could always take a steel shaft and put a weight in back there using the balance certified weighting system. And 95% of the time, I'll say 95 to 98% of the time, improve your putting, right? It would improve it because that weight is overriding all those little bitty muscles that want to twitch and tweak and turk and the whole 9 yards as you're putting. And that's basically what's happening here is they're creating putter shafts that are overriding basically the fast twitch muscles. So yeah. Now, is it worth is it a, whatever they cost now, $200 more than that? That's purely on the golfer and the benefits that it can provide. Sometimes it's not as great as one would think. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the miracle cure. Each individual person is a little bit different. There's Danny saying thanks. Oh, okay, Danny. Thanks for her. Okay, I get how this is working. All right, Russell Seward was struggling hitting my ping 3-wood, so I put a 7-wood shaft in it for an experiment, never hit it better, and within 5 yards of the original shaft. Yeah, so Russell, that was probably a couple of things. Number one, it was the club itself was probably a little too long, as we were talking about that earlier. And two, you may have been a little bit more aggressive, because basically what they're doing there is they're just tipping it, right? They're tipping it a little bit more, probably in half-inch increments, and then in butt trimming in order to get where they need to go in order to do it. But the weak point, and I like pings. Don't get me wrong, I'm a ping fan. It particularly in these model or these generations, the ISKs and all that, these heads were very, very good. The weak point in the ping line was always their shafts. They wouldn't get off of their own proprietary stuff, and people were spraying it. In the minute I tightened it up in torque or weight, they became real weapons to be used. So yeah, it was pretty good. All right. Patrick Barman, how are you, sir? There's a new name. I haven't seen that one. Had success replacing a standard grip with a Boscheri Secret Grip, 93 grams, back weighted. Yes, back weighting in a putter is, again, 95% to the positive. Slows me down, longer, less inclined, bring it down over the top, cheap experiment. There you go, man. There you go. In a putter, a heavier grip, particularly when the weight is under the hands, typically a winner. Typically. There he is. How you doing, buddy? How's the back? You doing all right? Joe Dennis, how are you? Outdoor golf officially ended in Iowa last Wednesday. We're in Iowa, dude. We moved here from Iowa. So that'd be kind of neat to figure out. Was 73, dropped 50 degrees, and now staying in the 30s. Yeah. 3 to 4 inches of snow. Oh, geez. That means it's coming this way. Whenever you guys get snow over there, about a day or two later, it's going to hit here because of the way that Lake Michigan gets involved and it pushes it our way. So it's there. I do have a golf in Iowa story. So our very last day in Iowa, we lived in Cedar Rapids. I came back because I'd already had the job here and went back and collected up the family. We loaded up the truck and we were getting ready to move to Beverly. But on our way out, it started snowing. And it's snowing the typical big flake kind of snow. And it was just coming down. Well, the place that we lived, the road you had to take, split this golf course that we lived nearby. And they'd have to go under the underpass. And there was 3 or 4 holes over there. And then you finished out the rest of the way. And the place was called St. Andrews. Really nice layout. And as we were driving out, off to the right hand side was a green, and there were 4 guys on there wearing wearing toboggans, gloves, snow outfits, and putting out on the green. Those are what you call some traditionalist guys having at it. More power to them, right? More power to them. All right. My dog Rex, 81 in Florida. Oh my. Look at that, Florida. OSU's number 2. They are right now. I foresee that that's going to be a real game, man. I think that's going to be cool. Ryan Tracy, what do you say, sir? Hey Jim, brought the hazard smoke green and it was very stiff prior to cutting, tipped it 1 inch and put a FX head. Now I can feel real flex about 18-20. Any thoughts? Well, if you got the hazardous smoke green, that thing's brutally stiff to begin with, and if you tipped it an inch, oh my. Well, I guess that I'm trying to think how that's a bad thing. If you're throwing it out there and this PXG is working for you, then that's a good feel. I don't think I don't see you can't be too wild with this thing, particularly after you've cut an inch off of it. I mean, even in the pros, the guys that are out there that are hard swingers are in the same area, and they use these to keep in control. So I hope that it's working for you. I really do. I hope that's working for you because that is one massively stiff golf shaft. So what I need to know is how is it truly working? If you can feel it up there, that means that head's kicking. That's pretty cool. Big Al, thank you for staying up, sir. Appreciate it. Oh, only number 2 for a couple of weeks. That's probably when they go up to number 1 because they spanked Michigan. Ah, how about that? I think that one's probably going to shape up to be one heck of a game. You know, from a Big Ten point of view, when you see the SEC is always, you had the Bama, Clemson, the Bama, Georgia, Bama, and everybody else. Everybody's like, well, they're number 1 and 2, so if they lose, they ought to just drop. And you think they would drop way, way down. Well, they don't. Well, in this particular instance, this is no different. This is no different. And so if we see something where one of the losers drops out of the top 10 or something like that, then you know the fix is in. All right, here we go. Jewel, rotator cuff surgery in 2 weeks. My season is all over. I have time to recover for spring. Absolutely. And you know what? Take the time and get better, right? Do those exercises that they tell you to do. Hopefully they don't have to fillet you open, but they only go in with the two marks. Unfortunately, I know all about this based on the people that work around me that went and have this done, and they are way better for it. But there's a lot of rehab, and don't skimp. And when you go to the doc, have him actually put a little extra knot in that rope and say, "Hey, I want to hit a draw." All righty. There's Robin saying hi to Steve. we got here? Ryan McGuire. We're seeing some new names again. That's pretty cool. Well done. Thank you. Switch from the DG 300 to Most 105 this year, and finding the handle feels thicker despite the exact same grip install. Am I crazy? Well, the DG's probably got a 600 butt, and I would have to look. You might be at 605, maybe 610 in the 105. So it might be just a skosh thicker, right? A skosh thicker is probably what's going on. So yeah, I think the butt of the 105 is slightly bigger. I'm trying. Normally, I have some of that information running around here in front of me, but yeah, I think the butt size is just a hair. Typically, when the weight of the shaft goes down, the butt size gets bigger. Not by a tremendous amount, like a 005 or a 010. Man, 5 minutes.
I know, but you're only halfway down.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm almost all the way
I'm
down.
chatting all the way down. Come on.
Well, that's because you're a chatter.
I'm chatty.
You are. So, but yeah, it's probably just a hair thicker. And the fact that you can feel that is pretty amazing because most people could not. Oh, look at that. Here, hit the thumbs up. Yes, please. If you guys would, thumb up, subscribe, and like again. Ryan McGuire, do you remove the tip weight from the end when installing the Super Stroke on the putter grip? Last one I installed fell out a few rounds, never removed. If we're talking about Ryan, if we're talking about in the Odyssey putter, right, that has the back weight in it, no, I don't take it out. I just install over top of it. If you're talking about the weight that the Super Stroke grip would allow, because on the back of the Super Stroke they typically have that cap that has a little Allen wrench on it, and you can open it up, and then you shove Super Stroke's version of it, and then you screw it in. Now, if you tried to use Callaway's weight in the Super Stroke, it falling out would be an expectation, right? Because what it is the cap on the Super Stroke is threaded, and those threads are what hold it in. Now, I have also seen that where that thread is at is a plastic piece that's molded into the grip, and there's been many times where a golfer will tighten it down, and instead of just getting it to being hand tight, that they will grab it and they will turn it over, and they will literally break that plastic piece clean out of it, in which case it has an opportunity of falling out. So hopefully none of that's happened. Yeah, no doubt. Or start using those really funky colored golf balls so you can see them. There's JT Wilson. Wet and cool in Louisiana. Josh Fetvet. All right. Oh, now there's a picture. Very cool. Saw a video you did on the All Fit Universal Driver Adapter. I was wondering how they held up over the last year. I was thinking of buying into the system. So far, so good. The only thing I would recommend is that they try to sell you a wrench, and the wrench tightens it down too tight to the point where you could break the screw that goes in there. I tend to use, in fact, I got them. I'll use one of these guys. One's a Mizuno, one's a Callaway, and that keeps it on there. It has the right amount of torque. The one I've got is just too much. Outside of that, yeah, just fine. Danny Freeman, I wish they would give relief from divots on the fairway that way. Yes. There's Tony. How you doing? Okay. Thank you. Man, Charlie, I'm glad you said this because I'm going to actually have to get into that book and see what's going on. Maybe we can talk about that'd be a heck of a topic, wouldn't it? All right. Patrick Barman says, USG says measure club at 6-degree lie angle. Everything I've learned says measure the playing position, sold center. Has 60 gradient been a method not adopted? Does it matter? Okay. Well, number one, yes, it is at 60 degrees. Two, yes, in the playing position, sold in the middle is what I've always been taught, and I still do to this day. What does that mean? Well, I did that on this last wedge shaft. The difference between, say, a 60 and a 64 per se is a grand total of that much. It's like an eighth, a maximum of an eighth of an inch, 16th at a minimum, eighth of an inch at a maximum. So what does that mean? Well, the only time you really have to worry about this is when you're at the maximum length. So if it was 48, you would want to use the 60-degree rule. And if you were at, what is it, 19 or 29? 19, and down at the bottom end, so you're not too short. Those are the only two times I would ever use that 60 degree. Now the funny thing is, in a lot of cases, the driver is between 59 and 60, close enough. Now there are some out there that I've seen that are 63. So you got to be and when they're at 63 and you measure it, it will give it a little bit higher number. So you really want to make sure you're measuring from 60 when you're out that far. And if by all these rules are getting out there, we're going to be at 50 inches. So we kind of got to watch that. But in between, not too much of a difference. Dave, I put sting stoppers in all my steel shafts, made quite a bit of difference. Pretty cheap upgrade. Yeah, they got those. They used to be able to sell uh, the sensor cores. You could buy them in a pack. They don't sell those anymore. Now they got that like foam that you can install. Pretty good. All righty. John wants to retire so that she can play. Yeah. Did you see Charlie right there?
I'm selling all of those.
All righty. Robin, Jim gives a huge pay raise. There you go. She does all the work. She can have it.
No.
May golf will retire when all the 650 degrees starts showing up in the shop. Maybe. I don't see that happening too much. I see the 600. I don't know. I've said that kind of stuff where it won't gain traction and it takes off like a rocket ship. But 600 seems to be a little bit big, even for most players. It's fun to see. We might see the folks with slower swing speeds getting into it, but not the guys with the top end ones. Tony, eagled both back 9 par 5s in my last round, November 5th. Are your graphite shafts still popular? Recoil, lowest weight, you can still feel control. Yes, the recoil darts are very, very good. Yes, and I do. We just had some brisket. I did cook a brisket this weekend and did some burnt ends and did some regular brisket, and we had it for dinner. So, yeah, it's done pretty good. Had the old guys. Oh, look at the old guys. Listen to that. Tony, the new ZX5s. Yes, they do. They're a much cleaner version of what they're out there. I don't think that the beveled edges are all what they were cut up to be, and they're a little less defined. I like that one. But the real winner of that lineup that coming up here is going to be the 4. The ZX4 is just going to be something else. I think people are going to gravitate towards that one. No, I'm not doing a barbecue business. That's real work. Joe Dennis, if I play the 105s and the MMTs and my Cobra Forge Techs, by far the best move I've made. Oh, he plays them in there. Yes, he does. Yeah, they're a nice shaft. Oh no, I would like when you do the fitting. When we do lie angles, yes, I test each one individually myself because number one, specs may be out, right? But if you had nothing else to go by and you only had one, and if you were making a set, then yes, I would do it. Just give them universally all the same thing. Barbecue, yeah, not. We like the barbecue, but oh my God, that's such work. Thanks, Charles. First time for me. First hole ever won. Nice. Well done. All righty. Patrick, wow, that's amazing. My golf wisdom led me to cut 2 inches off my driver. I'll add some weight to the head, hit more solid longer. There you go. Well done, sir. Me too. That's the reason why I did that today. All right. Mr. Polsky, how are you, sir? Have you tried the Gen 2 Mizuno golf balls and do you have them in stock? Well, funny you should ask. My rep sent me the RBX Tour S and the RB Tour, or the RBX, the Tour and the Tour X. And while I was doing my grip experiment, that's what I hit because I was hitting a Mizuno head. I figured let's hit a Mizuno ball, and I hit the X. Seemed pretty good, and I would say a significant improvement over the first generation. The first ones I did not like. They felt plasticky. They didn't hit very well. I just didn't like them. These are much more traditional in feel, and they actually work pretty good. All righty. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Whiskey shot. You better believe it. My dog Rex, I wish we'd try. And it's doing it, right? It's running it out. So I'm pretty good there. All right. An old Irish cold fix. Get 7-Up, shake the fizz out of it, heat up and drink it flat. Add a shot of whiskey, have a few of them, go to bed. Okay. Can't be all bad. Jake Allen's. There you go. Well, we would have, but we were kind of pressed for time there, bud. And, it was more of a family excursion than it was anything else, but thank you. Very good. All right. Brandy lemon tea. Oh, there you go. Yeah, they did. They made an autumn old fashioned. Oh my God, was it good? It was really good. Bill, you are more than welcome, sir. An old fashioned does use bourbon, but their Scotch selection will say was lacking down in Texas, so I had to go with I was when in Rome, that's what I was doing. Ooh, there you go. I'm getting all these really cool things. Yes, Charles, yes, but you can mix Scotch for a smoky old fashioned. Ah, there you go. Maybe I'll try that. Yeah, right upstairs right now. I got one. It's a pre-mixed old fashioned made from Bullet bourbon. It's very nice. RS, St. Louis. Good. Good. Thank you, sir. I've done it with Ard. Oh, yeah. I'm not an Ardbeg guy, but I get where the smoky part comes from. I don't like the smoky flavor. I like the stuff from the Speyside area. All right. Anybody try putting only looking at the hole and not the ball? Well, I've seen some guys do it, and I guess there's a length limit to where it works and it doesn't work. I don't know. Kahlua, Bailey's top of the Grand Marnier in layers, of course. Oh, there you go. Charlie the Cradle. Yeah, I did one a few times. Speed control. That would be right. Yeah. Doug Yang from Roanoke, Virginia. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us. The Cradle has been practicing. All right. Well, you know what? I've seen other guys do worse things in golf well, so hopefully it's it. Back's feeling good. Been hunting a lot. All's walking around has helped me. Good. Lose a few pounds. Not bad. Gotta like that. Doug, what's your thoughts on single length? The hybrid type irons. I remember your bang build about a year ago. Yeah. So single length irons, I'm okay with. And I've stated this in the past that number one, you got to have the right single length. Number two, you've got to understand that it's the same swing. That's the reason why it's built up. In almost every instance, when you get to the 5 iron, people start grunting because they know they're shorter clubs. That's not the intent. The intent is to have guaranteed or distinct differences between the irons themselves using the same swing. Once we got past that, then it was all good, and they've seen some really good results. As far as hybrid irons go, I have not seen a set other than those bangs that goes all the way down, and they're truly not meant for the single length. They are meant for they were meant to be discrete lengths, but it worked out. We'll say that. There are hybrid irons that are out there: Wilson's, launch pads, Cleveland's, launchers, right? And I saw another one. Some other companies got one now. Is it Ping? I saw another one. It's new to their line. It might be Cobra. It started out, and they might. You never know. It might turn over to that. But and hybrid irons are really easy to hit, but they're not geared for single length. So I'd take that into mind. Oh, look at this. Look at her getting into it now. Past my prime. Way too late. Had to get the leaves mowed, mulch before 2 inches of snow. Yeah, buddy. That just means it's coming our way. Thank you, though. So it layers better. Look at all this. We're getting into the how to make a drink channel. All right. Joe Dennis, I lived in Fort Dodge, maybe 45 minutes northwest of Ames, originally from Northeast Maryland. All right. Very cool. Well, the funny thing that you say that too, because I lived in Cape St. Clair, right about the middle. We were on the Chesapeake Bay. So I've been around. Fort Dodge. Very cool. All right. We were on the other end then. Man, we're getting into all these drinks now. I can see it now. Robin's gonna go out and get Grand Marnier and some orange flavored liqueur. Oh, here we go. And all I wanted her to do was give me an orange. All right, it was Allen wrench cap. It wasn't Allen wrench cap. It came with a grip that fell out. Much appreciated. Must have manhandled it. Now, if it's truly that, what could help you on that one, Ryan, is just a couple of dots of super glue on the threaded piece that came out of the back end of it. Put it on there and then jam it back in there, and you might be able to work it away from itself. Well, I would be really surprised. I mean, the Rogue Silver was a very, very stiff shaft, Ryan, but I can't believe that the green would be doing what it's doing. I think you probably find out that the consistency is really up on it. Look at that. We're talking about drinks keeping you warm. Here we go. Joe, glad to hear the all fit is working system. I went all and finished gluing up my last shaft today, going to hit it in the indoor league. Yeah, I like them. I've got dozens upon dozens. I did walk the piece that's going to be your weak point in all of them are these guys. All right, are the different adapters. And what I found was, and they're going to make it right on my next order, was uh, the Mizuno one. I bought 2 of them because I was fitting a lot of Mizunos. Let's see if I can find it. It's dark in here, so it's really hard to see them. TL. Well, nevertheless, aha, right here. What was happening is there's the adapter that you got to use, and what was happening is that the diameter of it was just a hair big, and it was causing it to the edges to go. And we found out that I needed that after we did some measuring between me and the rep locally here, that it was the wrong one. So they're just hooked me up with a new one when I get ready to go. But I still have one more left, so we're still good to go. All righty. Does all the same line go straight through a set apply to scratch handicappers? There's a comment. Now, what I mean, Darren, is not the same line angle across the board, like not all 60.5. What I mean is that they're all 1.5 degrees flat, like you were talking about, than what the spec would say. So, for instance, working backwards, let's just say the pitching wedge is 64. Then the 9 iron would be 63.5, and then 63, and then 62.5, and 62, 61.5, 61, and so forth, and all the way up the set. Now, if you get to say 62 degrees at whatever iron that is, you're saying 1.5 degrees flat, which means you would measure it out and it would be 60.5. And then that would be your standard, right? And then going back down, it'd be 60.5, 61, 61.5, 62, 62.5, so on. So your 64 would be 62.5. My math is right, in order to be flat. So they're not all the same. The flat reading would be the same all the way down. That's what I'm trying to get. Hopefully, I said it right that time. Great Pioneers content, by the way. I was fortunate enough to play number 2, number 4 Pine Needles this fall. Very good. Well, thank you. And I'm glad I'm hopefully enjoyed it. Another club maker friend of mine, I was just talking with him. He's out of, where is he out of? In the New York area. And he was down there with his son, and he got in about that same lineup. And he said, holy smokes, it was just, he was glad that he moved up. So very good. Camp living, beginner golfer buying a first set. I've hit all 4. The numbers were all good. Felt nice. Which do you suggest? Oh, okay. Rogue Max, Cobra, Mizuno 921s, and the Titleist 300. Or Titleist T300. Well, camp living, I'm going to be kind of one-sided on this one because I'm a Callaway guy, if you can't tell. I like the Rogue ST. It's not to say that all the rest of them are bad. I like the tech that goes in it, the multiple piece construction, the fact that it's a little stronger. I'm not real familiar with the Cobra model, but I am very familiar with the Mizuno. And if it's the hot metal, that is another good one, right? That's another good one to go through. And as I understand it, the Titleist T300 is the large offset, more forgiving type club as well. Titleist does not make junk, okay? Does not. Uh, Being how you're buying your first set, it just depends on what it is you're looking for. I will say this: that's something that's a little different than the Rogue will have. You can start, let's say, at the 6 iron and go down because it has the pitching wedge, an A wedge, and a gap wedge. It has 3 wedges in it, then maybe a standard 2, a gap, and an attack. All right, which the other ones would have. So you got to keep that one in mind as well. If I had my druthers, and again, it's all because of what I sell here, is the Callaways and the Mizunos. I am not familiar with the Cobras, and I've only seen 300s come through the shop. I've not hit them, but knowing full well that Titleist does not make junk, it is certainly one that's worth looking at. What I would do is I would go back there, and if whatever you look down on and whatever, if they're all giving you the same numbers and they're all giving you the same flights and all that stuff, it's a matter, you set it down, you grab it, and you look down. If it's comfy, then that's the one. And thank you for joining golf. Hopefully you catch it like the plague, like the rest of us have, and we'll see more of your questions when you get on here. You too, sir. Hopefully all things work out. You be careful doing your job because I know what it is. And just make sure that you take care of yourself. All right, that takes us down to the very end. Again, make sure you get a chance to watch the video. It comes out tomorrow, 7 a.m. talking about grips and grip size and how they work out well. Take a look at it. The next video will be talking about repairing this guy right here. If there's something else you want to know, put them in the show notes with YouTube or on the Facebook, and we'll be good to go. Guys, I appreciate it from all over the world yet again. And as usual, let's see your scores. Go low.